perfect. Okay, Todd, could you share your screen with the...
It is shared.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to go live with the stream now.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to our roundtable session on what a sustainable post-COVID annual meeting should look like. I'm Charlotte Ray, the chair of the Sustainability and Environment Action Special Interest Group, and we were really keen to hold this roundtable session because we're at such a pathways moment for the annual meeting. The pandemic's forced us to go online this year, but the climate crisis is going to really need us to reshape what the annual meeting looks like in future years as well. So I've got some slides that I'm going to speak to for just a few minutes to introduce you to the session. So first, some housekeeping. Please take a seat at a table. Each table should have a nominated CSIG host there with you, and you can check the chat for the names of the SIG members who are hosting you today. And the SIG hosts are going to guide the discussion using some prompts on a later slide that I'll show you. And really, we want to hear what you guys think about what a sustainable post-COVID annual meeting should look like. And at the end, those SIG hosts will report a summary back to the room so that we can hear if there are any common themes emerging. And as we get close towards the end of the session, we're going to launch a poll in the chat where we're going to ask you to vote for what your preferred meeting format would be, so that we can get some quantitative data as well as the qualitative feedback that we'll get from your table discussions. And a big purpose of why we're doing this is because over the next few months, we in the CSIG are going to be preparing a report that we'll send to OHBM Council on a vision for a sustainable post-COVID annual meeting. And it's so important that we hear from everyone in the community on what their preferences are to help really shape that vision. And we're very aware that there's going to be, such a wide range and spectrum of opinions on this. So we're really we want to encourage you to please be honest in your thoughts and feelings, and also to be respectful that we're all going to fall somewhere slightly different in terms of our opinions, and we're keen to hear them all. So before we get into the future vision, I just wanted to give a little bit of background context. The last time we had an in-person OHBM was in Rome in 2019. I need to get the exact number from the executive office on just how many attendees there were, but we estimate there would have been about 3,000 people attending. And we know that a transatlantic return flight emits roughly 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide. And using data from Milan Klauer's Nature paper, we estimated the travel carbon footprint of Rome to be about 3,500 tons of carbon dioxide emitted. For more on this, do come to our symposium. The second one is running on Friday, and Milan Klauer himself is one of our symposium speakers. And just another bit of background info, we've each got a sustainable personal carbon budget of 2 tons a year if we're going to stay on track for limiting warming to less than 2 Celsius. And so I think you can already see that if you take one return flight, you're getting close to eating up your annual carbon budget there. So it's crystal clear that 3,000 or so of us flying around the world every June is just not sustainable going forwards. And we're seeing right now that an annual meeting can work online. I think we're all identifying improvements that we would want to see made in future years, but we're all here together right now showing that we can do it. We need to bear in mind lots of intersectionality issues when talking about the annual meeting format, and online meetings have some really important accessibility and inclusivity benefits, but at the same time, in-person meetings have a lot of benefits too, and we need to have early career researchers really at the forefront of our minds in thinking about what's the best meeting format to support them in their career development. And of course, we really miss seeing each other in person. So I think all of this, shows us that this situation is very complex. It's very multifactorial. So answering the question of what future meetings should look like is not straightforward, and that's why we hope you're going to help us co-create and co-develop that vision. Just a few ideas on what the annual meeting could look like if we were going to opt for some other ways of doing it. So as well as the fully online meeting we've got this year, we can have a hybrid scenario, which is where some people are in person and some people are online. You can have multiple hubs. So with this format, you have multiple geographical locations. We might have one in Europe, one in the Americas, one in Australasia, and then you just travel to your nearest destination. And this really cuts down on the intercontinental aviation that has the biggest footprint. A biennial meeting is where we choose to see each other, meet online or in person only every other year instead of annually. And of course, we could potentially combine all of these and into all sorts of different permutations, or maybe you've got other ideas or other suggestions for how we could do things. So do please also feel free to type those in the chat. To give you a little bit of a window on the carbon savings that we would achieve under some of those alternative meeting formats. This is again data from Milan Klauer's paper. And you can see that switching to a biennial meeting immediately cuts your carbon emissions by half. That's a really substantial saving. But you can go even further in cutting carbon if you move to the hubs model, and right at the bottom we've got the carbon savings for a fully virtual meeting, 99.9% of carbon saved for OHBM 2021 compared to OHBM 2019. But it's, as I've mentioned, it's not necessarily just about the carbon savings, it's very, very multifactorial. So really what we're looking for you guys to tell us is, overall, how should OHBM balance the need to tackle the climate crisis, which is very, very urgent, we can't wait to do that, with making big changes? So in other words, just how radical are you prepared to be along that sustainability spectrum in order to prevent climate breakdown, and where are the compromises that you'll be happy with the annual meeting going forwards in relation to the benefits of the different scenarios. So as I mentioned, we'll launch a poll in the chat as we come towards the end. And if you're inspired by the discussion and you'd like to be part of shaping the report that we're going to put to Council, we'd love for you to join our annual meeting working group. Here are our contact details. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to you guys in Sparkle, hand over to your table hosts. I'm going to go on mute on the Zoom live stream, but I'm going to display the slides on a rolling basis so that you've got all that information to hand in front of you if you need it. And then at around sort of 45 minutes past or so, I'm going to invite the table hosts to come onto Zoom with me to tell me, tell the room a little summary of what you've discussed. Okay, so over to you guys. Hi everyone, I hope you've been having a great conversation at your tables. So I'd now like to ask one of my SIG colleagues to please post the poll in the chat, if a SIG colleague hasn't done so already. And attendees, please do vote for which of those options would be your preference for the OHBM meeting going forwards. So I'd like to also invite my host colleagues to come onto Zoom so that we can hear a little bit about what you discussed at your tables. So while I'm waiting for my SIG colleagues to join me here on the Zoom live stream, I will tell some jokes while we wait. I'm afraid these are rather Brit-centric and rather niche if you're into Doctor Who. Why do Daleks like apples? They like apples because an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Although I don't think it quite works because the Daleks always seem to be seeking out the doctor in order to exterminate him. So I've got two of my SIG colleagues here with me now. So Sam or Ellie, are either of you ready to give a little summary of what you discussed at your tables? Just feel free to unmute when you're ready.
Yep. Okay, yeah, we covered a lot in our discussion on our table, so I'll try and do a quick summary. So I think, first of all, like, you know, there's obviously, we're discussing there's benefits to both, and we don't want to lose the benefits of either option as we move forward. And I think what's happened with the coronavirus pandemic, you know, people want to use that as like a springboard to move forward differently to how things were before. We spoke about the possibility of like different types of hybrid meeting, also having a hub and different local nodes for the meeting. And then we spoke quite a lot as well about, you know, whatever changes there are, there will be some impact for both the organisation and the financial situation for OHBM itself as an organisation. And I think that's something that can get a bit lost with all the, like, you know, ideas. And that's something that I guess will need to be like taken into account. Yeah, trying to see from my notes if there was anything else. Yeah, just all these logistical things, and also the importance for different groups of the different things. So for example, early career researchers, maybe there's some advantages in particular for that group of having an in-person opportunity to meet compared to people who are like further on in their career.
Great, Ellie, thank you. And thank you to everyone on Ellie's table. And I have to say the sort of feasibility and practicality for our executive office colleagues was something that had been in my mind too. And it may be that, of course, that's going to be another trade-off, but it might be that, you know, when we do a poll, multiple hub locations comes out as really popular, but I can imagine that being a bit of a logistical challenge compared to if we went biennial in one location instead, say. So these are all the factors that we're going to have to plug into this very complex equation when we put together our recommendations for council. And I think your group touched on, Ellie, on another issue that's really at the forefront of our minds of early career researchers and doing the right thing for particular sectors within our community. Sam, do you want to say a little bit about what your group discussed?
So we also discussed about a lot of things actually. And I think the feeling was that somehow like everybody likes live interactions and having a beer, and there were some collaborations made over a beer, of course. So people were, I think, into mostly like hybrid options. So that there could be less or no fees for people attending online, for example, and just also participating perhaps more like not so actively perhaps, but and for also the option to actually go in person. But hubs would be really great. It's of course a question of feasibility. And there was not so much enthusiasm about biannual meetings because most of people said, I think, that it's just like every 2 years is just too little to actually network and get to know people and like the research they're doing. And so we also talked a little bit about that hybrid or online conferences are also much more inclusive. So, and also perhaps better for people who are a little bit more introvert, that it's actually easier for them to connect to other people. That perhaps should also be kept in mind. Yes, and also we talked about like carbon offsetting, and we're quite skeptical about it. So that could be perhaps rather like a moral greenwashing thing to do, but that we should somehow price in the CO2 that people emit when taking flights, for example. So like, no, yeah. Let me see, what else did we talk about? Yeah, and how to encourage people actually to, for example, take trains instead of flights. So perhaps there can be some badges or reduction of fees. It should be, all in all, should be something that is reward based instead of like punishing. So that was the main idea. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, this is so interesting. It sounds like you guys haven't just been talking about, okay, what option should it be, but a much wider ranging discussion, but on very important points that I think it's raising for us. We should wrap into what we say to council from the SIG, particularly around, you know, carbon offsetting. I'm so interested to hear that there was a little bit of a consensus around that. I feel like, you know, a couple of years ago, certainly colleagues at my institution who I was trying to say, look, we really need to go on the train, they were sort of jumping straight to offsetting, and I felt like it was quite a dominant theme. And I wonder if, you know, we're shifting all the time in recognition that offsetting, we can't just jump straight there. We've really got to tackle emissions reductions as the first and foremost route to keeping us safe from the worst effects of climate change. And for more on this, watch Adam Aaron's symposium talk. We also touched on this briefly in our live symposium on Tuesday. So it's really good to hear that you know, what people have been saying today is probably aligning with where we might have been thinking about carbon offsetting in the SIG and being very wary of that. It's also really curious, you know, striking, I think, what you said about not being so keen on the biennial meeting. And I'm just looking at what's come through on the vote in the chat, and it's really clear that people are keen on annual. Because I can see that the biennial options have not got many votes, and the annual ones are what's coming through as popular. And it totally makes sense that, especially for early career researchers, where, you know, you might be spending 3-4 years on a PhD, if you're only able to go to OHBM for two out of those 4 years, then that does limit you. So it's been so valuable to have that data from you guys with the poll in the chat. Thank you very much. So I think we'll wrap up the Zoom live stream there for this evening, but I'll be hopping into Sparkle to come and have a chat with any of you who are still around at the table. So do feel free to continue sitting at your tables and to chat with us and with each other if you would like to do that. I'll again just encourage anyone who's been inspired by the conversations today to consider joining our annual meeting working group. Our next steps are basically to write up what we've heard from you today, but also we want to launch an OHBM-wide survey that we're going to ask the Executive Office to send out for us, so that we can survey everyone who wasn't here today, and together those are going to be the kind of key pillars of our report for council on the best route forward that meets our needs as best we can, whilst also saving the planet, which we so urgently need to do. Thank you so much for coming today and for your time. I really appreciate it. And our final CSIG event will be our second symposium session tomorrow afternoon UTC time. So do bring your questions along for us then, and a very good day or evening to you. Thanks, bye for now.